What's up, guys? Look at that smile. You know why he's smiling? Because it's calf day. That's why Bones is smiling. So I'm going to show you today some different exercises and tips and tricks for growing your calves, getting them stronger. But the first thing that we need to do is we need to talk about some basic anatomy, because this is going to help you better understand some of the techniques that I'm about to show you. So let's spin Bones around here and let's talk calves. So there are two muscles in the calves. There is the soleus and the gastrocnemius. Now the soleus is the muscle that lies underneath the gastrocnemius, and the difference between the two is that the soleus is a monoarticulate muscle, whereas the gastrocnemius is polyarticulate. So what does that mean? Well, that means that the soleus, being monoarticulate, only crosses one joint, and that is going to be your ankle. So it originates from both the fibula and the tibia, so it attaches to both, and comes down and inserts on the back of your heel into your Achilles tendon. And that's what your Achilles tendon is the tendon attachment for both your soleus and your gastrocnemius. So as this muscle shortens in length, that pulls on the back of your heel, and that's what helps you push down and stand up on your toes or press down in a calf raise. Now your gastrocnemius is a polyarticulate muscle. So what does that mean? Well, that means that it crosses two joints. So it crosses the ankle joint just like the soleus, but because it originates up here on the back of the femur in two different locations and inserting on the Achilles tendon, it's crossing both the knee joint and the ankle joint. So what does that mean? Well, that means that when you're doing a seated calf raise, and as you bend your knee into a 90-degree angle like you would in a seated calf raise, that's putting the gastrocnemius in a relaxed position. That's actually shortening that muscle, putting it in a relaxed position, making it harder to get a full contraction on the muscle, therefore putting more emphasis on the soleus. So you're taking the gastrocnemius out of the equation slightly. So that's why you do a seated calf raise, to work your soleus muscle. Now, any calf raise, whether it's standing or seated, you're always going to work the soleus, no matter what. So the soleus is always in play. You're only doing a seated calf raise to put more emphasis on the soleus. So the next thing that you need to understand about the gastrocnemius is there's actually two heads to the muscle, a lot like your biceps. And that's why you have two origination points on the back of the femur. One approximately here and the other over here. That's why sometimes you'll see an imbalance in people's calf muscles from the inside to the outside. So that outer head of the gastrocnemius is the lateral head, and the inside portion is the medial head. And that's why you'll see people try to point their toes in and point their toes out, using different techniques to try to go ahead and create more balance in the gastrocnemius. But I'm going to show you guys some tips and some tricks to create that balance, besides turning your toes inside and out, which only puts a lot of stress on your knee. It actually puts a twisting stress on your knee. So we want to avoid that, so I'm going to show you guys the right way to do that. So let's go over and let's jump into some exercises. So this is your seated calf machine. So what we want to do, sit right on here. As you place your feet, you want to make sure that you feel the weight right on the ball of your foot. You're going to bring this pad down. Now it's important, don't put the pad right on the top of your knee. You're only putting stress on your knee, so you want to go ahead and put it right on your thigh above your knee. So as you can see, my leg is in a 90-degree position here, so that's putting the gastrocnemius in a relaxed state, because the origination point on the muscle is up here. So this muscle is in a shortened state right now, which means semi-relaxed, meaning it's putting more tension on the soleus, which is this muscle here. So the seated calf raise is primarily an isolation exercise for the soleus muscle. So as we lower the weight down, you don't need to overstretch it, but feel a slight stretch. So you're dropping your heels down, a nice mini pause, and then squeeze back up as high as you can, get a little pause, before controlling it on the way back down. Make sure that you squeeze all the way up. I see a lot of people really shortchange themselves when it comes to the range of motion. They'll come to about here when you could come all the way up here. You can see there's a big difference in the contraction from here to there. Look at the difference just in the contraction in the muscle. Everything is always about range of motion, peak contraction. So squeeze it all the way up, control it on the way back down. Don't bounce at the bottom. Squeeze it back up, pause, lower it back down. So the same holds true on any of your standing calf raises, your donkey calf raises. Never bounce at the bottom. Lower it down in a controlled fashion, a slight pause at the bottom before squeezing it back up, and make sure you get that peak squeeze. If you can't get that full range of motion, that means that you're going too heavy. And that's what I see with most exercises in general, is that people feel that you have to use heavy weight to build muscle, but not if you're sacrificing range of motion and peak contraction. So go as heavy as you can while still getting that full peak range of motion. Now, the majority of the size, the mass in your calf is going to come from your gastrocnemius. So let's talk about all the different variations of exercises that we can do to work your gastrocnemius. Now, one of the more popular exercises for training your gastrocnemius is going to be your donkey calf raise. If you look at old pictures of Franco Columbu and Arnold Schwarzenegger working out together, you would see Franco sitting on Arnold's back while he was doing calf raises. That's a donkey calf raise. Now, I don't want anyone sitting on my back. So an easy alternative, which is going to be very similar, is coming over here to the leg press machine. You can see I've got the 90 degrees here at my hips, just like you would in a donkey calf raise. So you're going to drop the heels, get the stretch, press, and get that little extra press, that peak contraction that we talked about. Now, people ask about foot position. They ask about turning their toes in, which if I would do it, would look like this, where they're hoping that's going to put more stress on the lateral head of the gastrocnemius, or turning their toes out like that, where they're hoping it's going to put more stress on the medial head of the gastrocnemius. Unfortunately, this puts a lot of stress on your knees, and I don't find that it's really that effective. One of the things that I find effective for balancing both the medial and the lateral head of the gastrocnemius is doing unilateral work, meaning one leg at a time. Exact same technique, lower the heel, little pause, squeeze back up, press, bring it back down, nice soft knee. That's one of my best tips for training calves, is do unilateral work as much as possible, even on the seated calf raise, whether it's on a leg press machine or doing standing calf raises. Do each leg independently. So, my top tips for calves: don't bounce at the bottom, get a slight stretch, make sure that you don't go so heavy that you're minimizing your range of motion. You want full range of motion. You want to get that peak contraction at the top, and you want to squeeze it and hold it for a second. Those are the biggest things that you can do to improve the quality of your calf training. Now, here in the BPI gym, we don't have a standing calf raise machine where I'd have pads on my shoulders. So what you can do, you can always come over to a Smith machine, find a block or a step, anything to raise your feet off the ground, and you're gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna come over here. So, ball of my foot right on the block, drop my heel down, get a nice stretch, a slight bend in my knees, squeeze it up, and all the way up, get that peak contraction. So same technique, but now like I just talked about, I like to do things unilateral when possible, so that's gonna be one leg at a time. So, same thing, soft knee, drop the heel, squeeze up, peak contraction, hold it, control it on the way back down. So here's what I don't wanna see. This is the wrong way. This is where I see people bouncing. It looks like this. This is where you're really stretching that tendon, using the elasticity of it to help propel you back up. You want to avoid this. The right way, if you're going to do 2 legs, it's going to be a control on the way down, stretch, squeeze it back up, maximum squeeze, hold it, control it back down. So for training the gastrocnemius, you can do a donkey calf raise, you can do them on a leg press machine, you can do them on a vertical leg press machine, you can do them on a horizontal leg press machine. That's going to help transfer that weight into your hips and take it off your shoulders. You can always do a standing calf raise, and that's just the only disadvantage is you're putting the weight on your shoulders, and so you have that little bit of compression on your spine. So, soleus muscle, that's going to be your seated calf raise. Now from balancing the lateral head of your gastrocnemius to the medial head, I recommend doing unilateral work, 1 leg at a time, instead of worrying about turning your feet in or turning them out. Make sure you pause at the bottom, don't overstretch it, don't bounce at the bottom. Make sure that you don't go too heavy so you can get full range of motion, squeeze it all the way up to the top, get that peak contraction. Add all those things up, and that's the recipe for maximizing your genetics and building as big a calves as you can. Now when it comes to rep ranges, I know a lot of people have questions about how heavy do you go and how many reps do you do? Well, the reality is we do walk on our feet all day long. So our calves are very resilient. I wouldn't say they're necessarily powerful, but they are very resilient. So in my opinion, I believe that it does take a combination of heavy weight but higher reps. So when I say high reps, I'm not talking about doing 100 reps. I'm talking about doing 20 to 25 reps per set, but you have to do it with heavy weight. So for me, 10 reps has got to feel hard, and then I squeeze out another 10 to 15. You have to break past that lactic acid threshold, because at 10 reps, your calves are going to really start to burn, but that doesn't mean that you can't do more. It's your brain telling you that you don't want to do more, but there's a difference between not wanting to do more and not being able to do more. So use a heavy enough weight where 10 feels challenging, and then take it for another 10 to 15 reps per set. And that's where I feel that you're going to get the maximum benefit for training calves. So those are all my little tips for training calves. What else am I missing here? Bones, help me out. I think that's it. So guys, that's a wrap on training calves. I hope you guys found that helpful. I really appreciate you guys tuning in to all these videos. We've been doing these now for the past, I think, 24 weeks now, breaking down all the different exercises. So if you're watching this for the first time, go back and watch some of the other videos. We do this exact same thing for every single muscle group in your entire body, from hamstrings and quads and biceps and triceps and back and chest, you name it. There's an advanced training technique video for all of them. So go back, check them all out. But we're going to continue this. We're going to move on to other training techniques such as intensity boosting techniques like drop sets and forced reps and different things to go ahead and accelerate your progress and help you guys build more muscle. So tune in next week. We've got a new video coming. And again, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all the support, and I'll see you guys next week.